You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV network. Now the largest new media platform on the web and your #1 source for after-show entertainment. From the AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's The Originals After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's The Originals After Show.
I put a spell on you. And
Oh,
now
you get the wings
you're
too.
mine. You can't stop the things I do.
Happy Halloween, everybody. I just had to play this because this is my favorite Halloween movie.
It's everybody's favorite
yeah.
Halloween movie.
It is.
I like Halloween Town. That's my favorite.
Oh, that's a
Halloween
good one.
Really?
Good one too, but Hocus
movie.
Pocus
The
all the way.
best.
It was, I mean, that was a great.
And they're not replaying it anymore, so I don't know what's going on with that. But the last 2 years, I've tried to search it.
It's on sale at Target, actually. You can get Halloween 1 and 2.
I just wanted.
That is true.
I just wanted.
Phil apparently made a purchase recently.
while
Our
I'm-
producer Marissa Serafini did.
And while I'm there buying it, I feel like there's another movie I could buy.
What one?
Adventures of Serial Buddies. Have you heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
I just rented that at Blockbuster. It's on the shelves now.
That would actually. Wait, Blockbuster still?
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's a few scattered around.
Alright.
Just gotta look hard for them.
There's a Blockbuster in Sherman Oaks on Riverside.
Well, that's the perfect movie to watch for Halloween.
Exactly.
Oh,
You get a little comedy in for it. Yeah.
A little laugh.
But yeah, Halloween's here. Hocus Pocus and The Originals was pretty original tonight. We got a lot of witchcraft tonight. I was enjoying it. It is your boy DJ Jesse Janedy here for The Original Sinners and Saints, joined in studio with the lovely Kristen Snyder,
Hello.
Paige Sullivan,
Hi.
and Roxy Striar.
Happy Halloween.
I mean, what did you guys think of this episode? I know we talked to Danielle, who plays Sophie, on the show earlier this week. And she kind of hinted that this was going to be a big episode for her, and it sure. I mean, we got some twists and turns, and I feel completed a little bit. I feel like I get where we're going.
The
with
big
this.
picture is definitely there now because, it was vampires versus witches, and now we see why that is. Before, we just thought Marcel was a power freak, basically, and now there's more to it than we're.
Are you guys kind of liking Marcel a little more after
Yeah.
this episode? Maybe he's not that bad of a guy.
You know, I've always liked Marcel, and that is a problem because I love Klaus. So I don't really know. I'm not that I'm not Team Klaus, but I'm not Team Marcel, if you know what I mean. And I really like that we're getting this backstory. We knew nothing about Sophie before this. Now we know a lot about her and about Davina, which is really huge. So tonight's episode, first of all, reading the blogs and everything, people loved it. And I was one of those people. And second of all, yes, we had been clear the whole season. We knew that we were at war. We knew who was fighting, but we never knew why. So like you're saying, I like that we're getting backstory, answers, and the why part is being talked about.
I feel like everything we thought we knew kind of got turned upside down, and the people we were kind of rooting for or against were switched this episode. It was a lot more plot than it was character development. And also, I think that Davina is like the key piece here, that we finally get her backstory. And before, I just thought she was like this crazy little girl, and I didn't really like her at all. But now I feel like all the weight is bearing down on her shoulders because she's this.
She's the key.
She's the key to all of it. And I actually feel really sorry for her because although, she thinks, she has to die, it's like, you point that at any of us, like, you feel like, okay, it's not that big of a deal because she's going to come back.
But
But
is she
we
going to come
still
back?
don't
Exactly, we
fully
don't
know.
Right, and then there's the whole other level of her best friend now being dead. So it's like in order for her to bring back her best friend, she has to die. The whole added stress of that. And, obviously, not obviously. You could believe that there are such things as vampires and witches. That's fine. But I was going to say, obviously, in my mind, in the real world, there aren't. But still, you look at this girl. And
Wait a minute. You've never watched Ricky Lake in the 90s when she's had vampires on the show.
That is a very good point. Very good point. But what I was going to say is that you think about what you were like as a 16-year-old. And then think about all this pressure. I mean, I was a little snotty 16-year-old selfish brat. So then to, on top of that, have all of this going on, it seems really unfair. And like you're saying, I felt for her tonight.
And I'm glad we got the answer as to why she has so much power, because we were wondering, what is Davina? Is she a witch? Is she something more than a witch? So now we just know that she is the power of many witches, and she is the key to everything.
So let's kind of talk about the backstory. So we find out this thing called the harvest. And we
love it.
We go back in time. There's the harvest, and then there's the reaping. And so basically, it was kind of like a old witch tale. People really didn't know if it was true or not. Every 300 years, right?
3 centuries, so 300 years.
Every 300 years, they have to do this harvest thing in which they take 4 girls.
They pick 4 of the girls.
They picked 4 out of, like, I don't know, 16, was it? I don't know how many.
Well, there was 8 sitting
At
there.
first.
Okay, so 8.
But there may have been more. They may have weeded it down. We don't know.
Yeah, because at the end, when it was the 4, she said the 4 of us didn't know that this was going to happen.
Right. I wonder what the qualifications for being one of the 4 of them was.
Yeah, why did they get picked? Because they pricked their hands, and then they put that stuff on their forehead. It looked like, you know, what's that day?
Ash Wednesday.
Ash Wednesday.
Yeah.
And then they just picked from that. They just picked 4 girls.
Right.
And they felt like they were the chosen ones. Like, we are doing such amazing things for
Right.
our coven. When in reality, they had absolutely no idea what was coming at them.
Yeah, slicing a bit of your hand and cutting your throat is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, had they been told that they would have gone along
No,
with it?
not as 16.
Hey, we're going to slit your throat, okay?
I mean,
all
not-
for the good. You're going to come back.
There's
but
a
like,
way to spin it. I
Yeah.
agree with you. I feel like there was miscommunication, and the second you say something wrong that someone didn't know, that's when they're gonna pull out of everything.
And panic.
Well, yeah, they
Yeah.
said, we're going to put you to sleep. The knife's going to put you to sleep. Like,
No, but I mean, would the parents, like the mothers, we see Jane Ann putting her daughter in this situation, and you can tell the love she has for her daughter. Is she doing this because she's naive and she doesn't realize what's happening, or does she truly believe that this harvest is going to work?
I think
my
it's
God.
like faith.
Girls
like,
seem pretty damn sure that the harvest was going to work. I mean, when she's talking to Sophie later on and she's saying, why couldn't you have trusted me? Why couldn't you believe me? Why would I put my own daughter in harm's way? I don't think she just didn't love her daughter. I think that she is 100% sure that her daughter
knows the
coming back.
balance.
But do they have proof that the harvest works? I mean, how did they know? It's a tale that
well,
they've
we
been
weren't
told.
given the proof. So we don't
Right.
know if her sister actually does know that it does work.
If it only happens every 300 years, and
Yeah.
how
There's
could
no
you
proof.
possibly know? You know,
Yeah.
there's not, I mean, documentation isn't proof.
No,
It's a
but I mean,
story.
from Vampire Diaries, we've seen that Bonnie can communicate with her elder spirit. So you never know what.
That's true.
Like, would
but
there be a way to draw from the ancestors, like in the graveyard, in the cemetery? Could they have a way to get just a yes or a no? Like, is this something?
That's a good point, but I think that probably what it is, I think it's a lot like religion. You know, people who look at the Bible and they are 100% certain that that is fact and that there is a God and that's what it is. I think that being a witch and knowing these stories, it's not a story, it's what happened.
And
Right.
it probably is a little more believable for them versus us watching
Right.
it. Because in their world, vampires, magic, and making things float does work.
Right.
So, I liked this episode because I liked that we were getting the same story from everybody. It was like Elijah and Davina, and they were telling the story. Then we got Sophie telling the story. Then we got Klaus and Marcel telling the story, and kind of putting all of the pieces together. So
They
with
kind of all agreed though, too.
Yeah.
That was the funny part about it, is it wasn't like huge differences. Like someone was like, this is the way it happened, and no, this is actually the way it happened. Like, it seemed to happen as we were all told, which I'm glad, because we would have been confused.
Right.
and so if the reaping doesn't happen, all of the witches lose power. Like, is that all the witches in the
think-
world, or just the witches in the
And
coven?
vampire
I think that
diaries.
their coven will lose it because they draw their power from their ancestors, and it's only their coven that does that. Because think about Bonnie's coven; she's just been roaming freely, and there's other witches all around.
Can you define coven?
Coven.
Like, is that just your group of witches?
Yeah.
That's what it's just like your group.
It's your family.
It's your
of-
family. You have your what's it called? The book that a lot of them have, the grimoire that they.
Okay.
So I feel like there's many different covens around the world, and they all do different things. They draw from their ancestors. Other people just draw from the earth or things like that. So I feel like because this is their coven, that's why they believe so strongly. But it's so strange to see somebody like Sophie Devereaux so against it. And I know she was a rebel when she wasn't a part of it, but she did grow up there.
Okay, I'm gonna give a Buffy reference right now. It's
Lord.
interesting.
The Buffy.
No,
The
but
Buffy.
it's interesting
We have to
because
watch.
no, writing wise, one thing I clearly say about Buffy is that they give you the story of vampires versus monsters and versus the humans, but deeper it talks about things that happen in today's society, and this kind of is the exact same thing. I mean, I remember going through the struggle with religion with my parents. The things they believe, I'm kind of like, I get parts of it, but that's totally wrong. You're going against actual moral beliefs. And I like that we got this, and it showed Sophie like, hey, I'm young and I'm looking at it from a different way. Like, why do these girls have to die?
But it's crazy that they're sometimes when you look at this situation before we get the end results, we were all on the same page as Sophie. We're like, how could you kill these innocent girls? But when you realize what actually happens and that they do come back to life, supposedly, then how can you judge the parents or anybody?
But how can you gamble that?
But also,
That's also true. That's also true.
and also, we know that the power was transferred from girl to girl to girl. We know that for a fact. So it seems as though the harvest was working. But in the end result could have been that power was transferred to the coven and the girls don't come back.
It's like a sacrifice.
It's
almost.
That's what it seems. A harvest, when you harvest, you like pull things.
And who was it that said, I mean, it seemed like the harvest was working, but who knows if it was the harvest or if it was something else.
Right.
Who said that? Was that Davina?
Yeah.
It may have been Davina, yeah.
What I can't believe is that this all is so recent. It's been within the last 8 months.
Right. Yeah.
That was shot when we have our first flashback to Sophie. She's on the bar, whatever, and it's like 8 months earlier. I was blown away.
But it also helps us out to our Cami situation when we were trying to figure out about her brother and when that kind of happened and why there was still blood on the church floor.
I mean, 8 months still. I'm
It's
sure you could have
still-
had somebody clean it up. But
seeing the priest is always walking around
and
there.
we figure she's related to him. That's her uncle, which I think is a huge part of it.
Right.
And we also learn more about why her brother did what he did.
How interesting that the witch's uncle is the priest.
Or not the witches. Cammy's uncle's the priest.
The twin.
The twin. Cammy, Sean, the boy who committed the mass murder, their uncle is the priest.
Okay, I got confused at the end when the priest said, stay away from her. I don't know
Cami,
why I was
yeah.
thinking in reference to Davina. He was
Sophie?
irritated that he was working with, no, Davina.
Oh, Davina.
Yeah. So then we get, we see the ritual kind of come into play, and it's being transferred, and the final girl, and then Marcel comes and stops everything. Now, rewind to Marcel's section of the story. We see that Marcel is kind of the last hope with the uncle, the priest. And that's where we see Stephen, right? Cammy's brother?
Sean.
Excuse me. We see Sean, the poor little altar boy. The witches are kind of talking to the priest, and the priest doesn't really agree with this whole harvest thing. I just loved all the angles of the community voicing their opinion on this sort of religion type factor.
It seems like he is a person of power, though, there for sure, because, Marcel comes to him, the witches come to him. He is a person that matters in New Orleans.
Right.
And I don't really know what he has over them.
Well, he says he has the human.
But how does he have the humans? I mean, I get he's the human in the triangle, but where does his power lie?
I mean, he's a preacher, so I would think that...
Like in his church, I guess.
But I would think that the humans are probably the ones that are in the audience.
But no, I understand that, but I just mean,
No, I
in
agree
the scheme
with
of
what you're
things,
saying.
where do the vampires
The
and witches,
vampires
they can
just
just
kill
take
them.
out all the humans.
It's not the fact that we don't believe that he has the voice of the humans. It's that, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Why is Marcel so like, okay, maybe I'll leave her alone?
That's what it feels
Right.
like. It feels
Well,
like
I mean, because they're keeping a secret. I mean, he could make it this big deal and put it in the papers and the cops and everything like that.
That's true. He did. Actually, he did
the
say
media on his side.
he holds the secret.
Yeah.
That they are trying to keep it under wraps, and
I think
I do think that there's something bigger. Though.
Yeah, I think there just has to be something more because the secret, they can easily get rid of him. I feel like it's very simple to, granted they don't want people onto the fact that there's something supernatural in their town, but there is a way to either Klaus compel him or somebody could do something.
How did you guys feel? So we get that church scene and we see one of the witches kind of touch Sean.
Was her name Sabina?
I think she was one of the other witches, the not so.
Yeah, I don't think Sabina was the one that did.
No,
that.
it was the older one
Yeah.
who did
Yeah,
it.
her name was.
Was it? I feel like it began with an A. I want to say like Agnes or something.
Agnes, that's exactly what it
She
was.
kind of put a hex on. Well, she put a hex on Sean, and it kind of over time made him think he was going crazy.
Because she was pissed about the father.
Yeah. Well, and also
She
I
wanted
think
to
it was a
distract,
distraction a distraction from the harvest. As long as that's what was happening in the church, then he didn't have time to deal with what they were doing.
Right.
So where do you kind of see that? We see Klaus kind of aha moment. Where do you kind of see that going with Cami, or what do you think Klaus's mind was at when he heard that part of the story?
I think he feels for.
I think he's going to get revenge for her. I mean, he said that he would, and now that he knows who's responsible, he will hold that in his hands. I mean, I think he will definitely keep his promise. He's like, the one person he's humanized with is kind of Cami, is when we see his human qualities come out. So I think that he's definitely... Do you guys feel like there's passion between them, or like a thing?
I think there's a thing.
I do, but what I was going to say is Klaus likes to fight, and he always wants there to be a battle. So I think that just because, yes, he is humanized with her, and yes, I think he does care for her, but more so than that, I just think that he is always looking to fight somebody's battle. Usually it's his own, but, you know, he doesn't mind going to battle, or going to war. So I think he's like, all right, I'll do this. You know, like, there's some people at the bar that fight all the time, and it's just unnecessary. They just like to fight, you know. They'll join your team just because you're fighting, not because they believe in what you're fighting for. I happen to think he does have motives here to fight for her, but I think that he would fight just to fight.
I think it's the motive, though. I think it's the guilt of that he compelled her when she sat there and looked him in the face and was like, I will do anything you need me to do to find out who did this to my brother.
I don't know if it's guilt, but I do think that he does care about her, so he's going to help.
Here's my question, though. Which one of them, because it's so hard to keep track when they're telling the story, because Klaus is hearing it from Marcel and Sophie's telling it to the girls. Did we have Sophie say that the witches put that spell on Sean? Was that Sophie who said that, or was it Marcel?
Marcel.
It was Marcel, but how did Marcel know when he wasn't there?
I don't know how he knew that.
See, I don't know if I'm just confused.
But
or
it
like,
was because, remember, Klaus answered to him and said, oh, yeah, I've heard that story
about the
before. And there's a
twin.
twin. And
Right.
he pretended he didn't
Yeah.
know. And Marcel doesn't even know that that's, well, I'm assuming.
That was Klaus testing Marcel to see how much Marcel knew.
knew about, yeah.
Right, and to see if he knew who Cami was.
And then the whole damn flip of the story is Sophie's been sleeping with Marcel.
Or I don't think anymore, but
Not
It
a-
was.
I want to know where in the 8 months that they were sleeping together, where now they don't communicate with each other, or
I think we're going to learn that because it couldn't have been instantaneous. It couldn't have happened just that night when he took Davina.
Well,
Right.
I
Or
think
could
it kind
it?
of was.
Oh, because her niece was killed.
he didn't get there in time to save her niece.
But she also told him not
So do
to
you think
come.
Marcel kind of has a guilt over that?
What do you mean, feels bad that he didn't
I don't know.
get there
I
in
just
time?
the thing with Marcel
No,
and Klaus,
because-
I see this. Ever since Marcel made that comment about, well, he says, you know, I don't want to do. No one can put harm on children, no matter if it's a witch or whatever. No harm towards them. I mean, I see guilt within these two guys who are savage-like. You know. So do you think it's kind of that?
I mean, they're fighting two different battles. That's the problem. They're on opposite sides because right now, what Sophie wants is for Davina to die, and what Marcel wants is to protect Davina. So I'm sure that would cause a rift in a relationship.
And he wants to protect Davina because he doesn't want her to die, but he also doesn't want her power to go
right.
back.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yes, they're on two opposite sides, but Marcel's got more reasons than one, whereas Sophie has the one where she wants to bring her niece back.
Right.
And the other-
Knowing that Davina will come back.
Well,
too,
she
as well.
wholeheartedly thinks that, yes.
And we have the whole thing how Klaus rescued Marcel when he was younger and being abused as a child. And so I feel like Marcel feels like he needs to return that favor to the universe, sort of. And he did that with rescuing Davina and taking her under his wing. So I feel like it's more so. He even mentions that he feels like it's his kindred spirit.
Yeah.
She is. So
and she called them family.
Yeah, and so I feel like he feels that they're sort of linked as one, and if he lets go of her, that's definitely like his power dwindling as well. I mean, it definitely benefits him to have her on his side.
Well, they all have so many sides to them.
Right.
As
it's very gray.
Yeah, it's very hard to know exactly what their true motives are because they seem to love some people and be hurtless on other occasions and struggle for power. So what is going to be the thing that overcomes them all?
What did you guys get from Sophie's reaction when Marcel came and grabbed Davina? If you kind of saw when she looked up at him, it was just kind of like a... Did you feel like it was a betrayal she felt, or I felt like there was a moment there?
I don't think it was betrayal. I think she was happy he came to try and help. And I don't think at that time any of them knew, or she probably didn't know right in that moment how much power Davina had. And I'm also confused because when she gets upset, she has all of this power and all these things that happen that she can't control. But in that instant, she is fighting for her life. And it doesn't seem like any supernatural things are happening.
Oh, well, it just was being transferred to her.
So was it
the power, strength was there. Yeah.
Well, so if that is the case, then Sophie doesn't mind that Marcel has taken her because she doesn't even believe in it.
Right.
True.
Right.
Okay.
I think she was just shocked right there.
Yeah, I mean, she just watched her niece die. I think that's what she was thinking about.
So what was for you guys, what was the biggest kind of plug-in for the story out of the backstory? Like what part really was your kind of the key to our New Orleans
The
town?
harvest, I feel like, in general, just everything that went down with that is the key to everything. Because of the harvest, Sean killed those people. Because of the harvest, Sophie's in the position she's in.
And did they tell us when the harvest has to be done by? Do we know?
She said,
I know she said a moon or something like that, but did they
Yeah.
actually say how long? No.
I don't
No,
think
I don't
Probably
think
till the end of the season.
Um,
If I had to guess.
I thought one of the biggest parts, the thing that stands out to me, it's not a moment, but it's a feeling, is that even though I like Sophie's character, we can't trust her because she's working for something on a completely different team than anybody else. And for example, anything she says about the baby, she's like, I don't know if that's real. I don't know what she's saying, whether she believes what she's saying or whether she's trying to convince people to do something one way or another.
I feel like she's kind of tied because with the baby, she's linked to Haley. Anything that happens to her happens to her. So technically, she doesn't want anything bad to happen to Haley.
Right, absolutely. But at the same time, I'm just saying.
And Haley doesn't really have anything to do with the...
Well,
New
it would
Orleans.
kill all the witches.
The baby?
The theory is that the baby would
that
kill
what the
all the
theory
witches.
is?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it seems like Sophie's damned if she does and damned if she doesn't because either they kill Haley and then Sophie dies, or they don't kill Haley, the baby's born, and then Sophie dies. So
this baby, though, is it its power that could potentially kill all of the witches, or the baby itself is just going to run rampant and kill everybody?
it wasn't
It
clear.
just said with this child being born, this is what
I
will
think it's the
happen.
form. I don't think they're thinking like killer baby.
No.
But it's like the power the baby has.
See, I think it's more like, I think it's something that will happen over time where this baby coming into this power position, the originals are here, the way that things will go, it will diminish the witches.
So it's more this baby brings a situation upon them.
That's
less than
what I'm
That's what I
assuming.
think so too.
because it seems like, at the end of this episode, we had Davina kind of fake her thing, which, it just makes it all seem so much more complicated. Like, I feel like nobody really knows what's happening.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to, now we're starting to get why everybody's doing everything, so their motives are becoming more clear. And we know that, but nobody else seems to know what the next person's motive is.
Right.
So, that's why Davina doesn't just say to Marcel, I'm not going with you. She has to still pretend that she's on Team Marcel, even though she's on Team Elijah. And who knows if Team Elijah is the same as Team Klaus, because who knows if they're ever on the same page. And,
Right.
and you know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like,
She's kind of figuring it out. I think she wants to keep both people on good terms. I think she does still care for Marcel, and she doesn't want to fully stab him in the back.
Right.
But at the same time, hey,
keeping her options
if I can learn how to control
what I am.
this, which almost to me, I feel like she looks at it like a sickness.
And but why does she, understanding kind of the situation, understanding where the witches were coming from, and I mean, I'm assuming her mother was one of the people, you know.
Whose mother?
Davina's mother was one of the ones, you know, going through with the harvest. She has so much hatred towards them and wants to stop them. Whereas maybe over time when it's not so fresh, she would have thought, you know, if this is real, you know, I'm essentially hurting all of them. My family, the people who raised me, the people who grew me to be
and my
who
best
I am.
friend.
And my best friend. So it seems strange to me that her one thing is to learn now how to survive and carry this power instead of learning the facts, figuring it out.
Talking to
How do you learn
outside
the facts?
I think
I don't know.
maybe a neutral witch, or kind of maybe these books.
Yeah.
Really,
that
what
she's
you
gonna get
need
is going to tell that story.
What you need are vampires that have been around long enough that they've seen a harvest.
That's what drives me crazy, because it's like, but I guess you know, with the originals, the
They've
kids
been everywhere.
didn't really know their mother that well or know her magic that well.
But also, is the harvest something that is only for New Orleans? Because we've never heard of it before. Bonnie'd never heard of it. I mean, from
But
what
Bonnie
we know,
doesn't really have a coven.
she doesn't. Right, but so if she doesn't have a coven, how come her power is not just gone? In order for this coven to stay and to renew their power every 300 years, they have to do this. And they also have to perform in a cemetery. So I feel like this is specific to them. So unless there were vampires in New Orleans who are still there and still know what happened 300 years ago, we're not going to get an answer.
I think it's the book.
I felt like it was broader because would Klaus and everybody else really care about the witches that are just in New Orleans losing their power? I felt like it seemed more grandiose to that, like all witches would lose their power, but I don't know about that.
No, I think it's the coven, because
So it's just that coven.
Yeah, I think it's something either every coven has to kind of keep up, or maybe there's different witches who, you know, maybe Bonnie's magic doesn't come from her ancestors. Maybe
That's a good point.
To me, Bonnie her power seems to more come from the earth, and then when she gets involved with ancestors and stuff like that, it seems like it's too much for her.
But she also gets in trouble for calling the ancestors into it. So it is a very different thing, whereas they feed off of their ancestors, and their ancestors seem to be willingly letting them use their power. With Bonnie, it was a struggle every time. It wasn't always a good thing.
So
And
Bonnie just needs to kill some 16-year-olds, and then they would.
When we talk about Bonnie, just for you guys who aren't Vampire
Vampire
Diaries
Diaries.
fans, she's a witch on the Vampire Diaries.
I think it's so hard not to compare because they are shows from each other. So she's the only other witch I have to compare to this.
Yeah, but also
Right, of
the
course.
difference
Oh,
between
yeah.
Bonnie and these witches seem a little more voodoo.
Well, some of them do.
What's that mean?
Like voodoo witches, like to bring up another show, you know, we get American Horror Story. You have the real witches who are Wiccans and practice certain
They have
things.
certain powers that are just within them.
Yeah.
And then you have Precious, who sticks her hand in the boiling oil and somebody else is burning.
Right, or
then there's the
Angela
other.
Bassett, who is a voodoo, where she has to use things to create spells. And if you notice, if we bring it back to tonight's episode with the originals, the woman put a hex. Hex usually is, you know, a language that's used with voodoo versus a spell, which would be kind of more witchcraft.
I don't know. I feel like these New Orleans witches, they do a lot of potions and stuff.
I
So-
think there may be just different people who practice different things within the coven. But also, some of the women we saw in New Orleans, we didn't see any of them at the harvest. You know, the ones who
Yeah.
seemed to practice the voodoo, the one who owned the shop and all them. I don't think and the ones who tried to kill Haley, we didn't really see them at the harvest. But at the same time, it seems like they were going to benefit from it.
Right.
So I don't know if there's two separate practicing covens or...
It
Well,
seems
we-
that there are.
What we heard from our interview on Tuesday, what we heard was that there is going to be a bigger power that's coming through. Now, maybe this is
That's
a
not
different-
the baby.
That's not the baby. So maybe this is a different kind of witch. Maybe this
I'm
is.
wondering if
I
it's
mean,
the
I don't know.
priest.
Daniela didn't say that
Ooh,
it.
that'd be
yeah,
interesting.
but she said that we haven't seen it yet. So I don't think Daniela said that there was a different power coming through. It wasn't the baby. We haven't been introduced to it yet, and it wasn't a traveler. So that's what we know so far. So I'm thinking maybe a different kind of witch. Maybe we're gonna.
And we're also going to get a crossover. So I wonder who it's
yeah.
going to be. If maybe it's going to be Bonnie or some.
Maybe the
you know.
crossover is the power. coming
Maybe.
through.
But
But we haven't really seen
Like
a
a
big
doppelganger.
power. Oh, please.
Oh God, please
No
doppelgangers.
doppelgangers for the originals.
I love the doppelgangers, guys.
Can I just say I really
Just
I really like what Davina kind of represents, taking it back to something in our society, in our real life, someone who has gotten all this power and has to be kept from society to be protected. I feel like that's a lot of different famous people and powerful people, and at the end of the day, she just wants to get rid of it all and go back to living a normal life. So it was kind of interesting to see that as, you know, something we could relate
She
back
looks
to
at
our
her
society.
gift as a curse.
Yeah.
How'd you guys feel about Elijah and his connection with Davina?
Haley? Oh,
Well,
or
Davina. Well, we'll get
First
into
off,
that
Haley,
in a
that's
second.
another story. I like it. I feel like she needs a true ally who. I don't think he's
Is
going to
Elijah
use
a
her.
true ally?
I don't think he's going to use her because what does he get out of Davina? What does he get from her? He doesn't want the power in New Orleans. What he wants right now is Haley, it seems like, and this baby. So by helping her and giving her the spells, the grimoire, what does he get?
I think that it's more what's not going to happen, which is
Yeah.
she's not going to be on Team Marcel or Klaus.
She's not going to get in the way.
What-
But
Right.
in a sense, that keeps everybody from war. So I feel like, if anything, he is an ally. He's saving every person in this.
He's not putting her in harm's way. That's
Right.
Right.
is that.
He's giving her what she wants.
Yeah.
Basically. Well, okay, so let's move into the Haley situation.
I mean,
Yeah.
before that,
What
what
was
about that
the
one look
promise?
with Rebekah when he walks in? It looked like she was going to jump his bones.
no, they
No,
just
she was
love each
excited.
other.
Guys.
No,
I felt
Elijah.
love.
Elijah looked like he was going to
Jump
like pounce
Haley.
on Haley. Like
Yeah.
I was not expecting that slap.
I don't
What was
like
the
it.
promise?
That he would protect her.
Yeah, no
that he
matter
wouldn't
what.
leave her and he would protect her. But he, was stabbed protecting her against Klaus. So there's nothing he really could have done.
I wanted a make-out session.
I don't. She's carrying his brother's
Yeah.
baby.
There needs
I
to
don't
be
care.
another time for it. Like the baby needs to happen first, and then I think they can be together. But Elijah knows that his brother Klaus does not care about Haley whatsoever.
But
He
he
does care
cares
about
about
the
the
baby.
baby.
How many
and
months-
that's going to cause a huge thing
How many
between
months
him and
into this
Elijah.
pregnancy are we?
I don't think very many.
Yeah, I don't think
Got a
that.
bump.
I don't think she's not. It's a 9-month situation.
I think it's like a Twilight situation,
Yeah.
like where it just kind of happens.
All right. So
whenever
we could
Julie
pop out
Plec
now.
feels like
Yeah.
having it come out.
I think it's creepy though that
Like-
Elijah's so into Haley, and I think it's going to be a big power struggle once this baby's born, because if he does end up with Haley and they have this bond, he's going to want to parent this child. But in reality, it's not his child; it's Klaus's.
Uncle stepdad Elijah.
Uncle stepdad.
Awkward. Well, where do you guys see that kind of leading to?
I hope nowhere. I don't like it.
Where did it start? That's what I want to know.
I don't
I'm
think-
like, we never really got like a. I feel like there's a missing piece.
The summertime is the missing piece. The summer, which where we didn't see them.
I think Elijah has always wanted to be a father, and that's not something he could do in his position. And so now that he has the opportunity to be, I feel like that he is going to take it. I feel like
No,
he's just,
I think he's gonna be satisfied being an uncle.
And do you think he's going to be satisfied not dating Haley?
No, I think he wants Haley. That doesn't really bother me. I'm not sure why, because when I
because
say
they're
it,
Vampire
when I
Diaries
say it
fans.
out loud, it sounds a little incestual and kind of weird. But while I watch the screen, it works.
I
Yeah.
see the connection there, but is it on his end or hers as well? She seemed to have a bond with him because she knew he was protecting her, and he was a powerful figure in her life, and he could protect her. Is that all he is to her? Like a big brother, or is he someone she's interested in?
like she read all those
Yeah,
diaries.
I think
about
that's where
him.
I get where she kind of
Yeah.
fell for him. But is he doing like a mind thing where he could kind of communicate with her or see that she had this feeling towards her? Is the fact that she read all his diaries, can he sense that and he's just drawn to her?
I don't know.
Well, all right. What about Rebekah and Marcel? We had a.
Yeah,
they
what
keep
was
giving us these
that?
moments with these two, and obviously it's going to lead up to something with this secret that happened
Between
or-
the two of them.
Now we
yeah.
don't know. I thought that we knew everything about their
Yeah.
past, but there's something there that we don't know. And more importantly, it's something that Rebekah specifically really doesn't want, I'm guessing, Klaus to find out
Right.
about.
Yeah, I
So
feel.
what could that be? I mean, they've already hooked up and everybody knows.
I feel like it probably maybe she's seen Marcel before, like Klaus knew he was still alive, because they all thought he was. Well, actually, no. She said she thought he was dead as well. I was gonna say maybe she went to New Orleans at one point and saw Marcel before Klaus knew what was happening down there.
She can't be have a child, right?
I don't think she can
I
have a
don't think
baby.
so.
No.
Yeah, because
No,
I thought
she
maybe
always
like
wanted the
some
cure
sort of.
so that she could have a family.
And
so
a
I
life.
think that's part of being a vampire is you can't, which is why I think Elijah wants this baby, because he can't.
I don't know.
All right. Well, before we head into predictions, is there anything else you guys, hit you or you kind of want to go over? I think we're pretty. much...
Real quick, I really liked how Rebekah told Haley that she wasn't alone. She's like, I don't ruin good boots
Yeah.
That was great.
for anybody.
We're loving their relationship.
Yeah, I like that there's a genuine friendship happening, whereas everyone else was just family or enemies, and now we have a bond.
Well, I like that we're seeing that this child is changing everybody, because it's changing Rebekah too.
Well, on that note, let's head into predictions.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
So it is changing everybody, and where do you guys kind of see it leading to? We've talked about last week where we kind of said maybe Marcel and Klaus are going to have to work together, but I'm kind of wondering if Marcel is actually going to work with Elijah, Rebekah, and Haley, and Klaus is going to feel outcasted again and fight for the baby and kind of be against his siblings again, because we always get that ongoing battle between the siblings.
From what Daniela told us, because of this force that's coming, I don't think any of these characters are fighting each other. It sounded to me like they're all joining together and fighting whatever is on its way. So I think we're going to see Marcel working with them, but I don't think Klaus is on the outs. I think that they're all going to have to join together.
And I feel like the show is called The Originals for a reason, whereas maybe those of us who are familiar with them on the Vampire Diaries, it was a struggle for them to be a family, but as you mentioned, this baby is changing things. And so I don't see them going against each other as much as I see them teaming up with Marcel, even maybe the witches, to fight this larger force. But I also kind of see the power shifting, because
tonight.
Well, now we know why Marcel has this power, and so it can't stay like that for long.
Is the larger power that's coming perhaps the tribe that Haley's family was, and the wolf that's protecting her? Maybe they want the baby now.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they did the wolf marks. Those were some.
No,
big
but she
wolf
said,
marks.
Daniela said, it's not a wolf and it's not it's nothing
okay.
you've seen before. So whatever it is, I don't really know what it is. But what I'm worried about right now is the baby. I mean, we see in the scenes from next week, Haley's in a lot of pain. It looked like she was bleeding in a pool or something.
Water birth, maybe?
That's what I thought. I was like, is this a water birth?
I don't know.
Yeah, the baby's coming. We're not killing that baby. Ain't dying at all. That baby is going to come.
And I don't
on
think
the
Haley's
show.
dying either.
No.
Because,
No.
sometimes it goes either way, baby or mom, but I don't think that's going to be a thing.
Is the harvest going to happen? Is Davina going to die?
Not soon.
Yeah, not soon. But I could see the harvest happening, or the coven kind of shift.
Yeah, that could happen.
And kind of be reintroducing new witches. So, yeah, next week, it looks like it's going to solely be the witches versus Haley.
I wonder if what's coming is possibly not a who, but a what. Like, not a natural disaster, but something that we haven't thought about,
I don't know. I feel like they've been hinting at like her birthmarks in this tribe, so maybe it's
That's
not
true.
just wolves.
Because
Maybe-
not
but
every wolf has that birthmark.
That's
That's
true.
specific to Haley.
Maybe
point.
it's a tribe that's not just the wolves, but maybe they control the wolves. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you see those marks when they were hunting down the
On the
witches'
trees?
bodies? The trees, and then like the paw prints even seemed like huge. Like it didn't seem like
Yeah.
a wolf.
And
They
I
don't ever
know.
reference the werewolves as lichens, correct?
No.
No.
Which is another term for a certain type of werewolf,
Werewolf?
in Monster World. I'm wondering if it could be
be a
something
new
along
version,
that
yeah.
line.
I want to be in Monster World, man.
Me too. Although, I don't know, actually. They
Yeah.
were going through too much stuff. Their parties always get ruined. All right, on that note, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Halloween. Make sure you guys hit us up on iTunes. Subscribe to our podcast, The Originals AfterBuzz TV. It's free. Leave us a comment. Show us some love. Rate us 5 stars. You guys can also keep the conversation going with us at AfterBuzz TV on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Also keep it going with us on Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me at DJ Jesse J.
You can follow me at Cinematic Escape or bang my blog, Cinematic Escape.
And you can follow me at Paige Sullivan.
At Roxy Striar.
Till next week, same time, same place.
Bye.
Peace.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.